Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan Ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome everyone to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. It feels beautiful. It feels blissful. It feels free. Imagine what it would feel like to be in jail and then suddenly to be free. That's what it feels like. It's Kardo. It feels like imagine that you've been living in a cage, in a dark cage, but you don't know you're living in a dark cage. Imagine that you've been living in that. And then suddenly one day, someone comes and they open the door and they turn the light on and you're free. And the cage itself just dissolves. You don't even actually have to walk out of it. That's what moksha feels like. That's what freedom feels like. Only in retrospect do you really realize how stuck you were. Because when we're still living in illusion, we look around and we think, oh, this is life. Yes, I am my drama. I am my history. I am my personality. I am my relationships. Yes, I will be happy only when this person is doing what I want, acting the way that I want. Then I will be happy. We live in that jail of needing the world, needing other people to be a certain way so that we can feel happy, so that we can feel peaceful, because we don't know who we are. And so that inner experience is constantly going up and down, constantly, like waves in a stormy sea. Freedom, moksha, is being free of those waves. Being free of your internal experience, constantly going up and down, based on how other people are, based on how the universe is behaving. It's no longer needing an external story to tell you who you are. It's no longer depending on anything for your own inner joy, inner bliss. That is freedom. Most of us live in various degrees of being stuck. But we don't even realize it. And this is where, thankfully, we have our beautiful teachings, our beautiful scriptures to keep reminding us, don't get stuck. Don't get stuck in this veil of Maya, this veil of illusion. You can be free. So, yeah, it's indescribable on many levels. It's something that words don't really do justice to. It's an experience. In Hindi, we say an anubhav. Of that complete freedom. Yeah, it's nothing that words are very, very good at describing, but the beautiful thing is it's something that every one of us is capable of experiencing and having. So all of you, through your practice, through your meditation, through your prayers, can find that moksha. In order to have it, we just have to let go of that which is not self. The jail isn't by someone else. The jail isn't by the weather or the traffic or the stock market or someone else's behavior. The jail is our own mind. There's a beautiful teaching that says, Man eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. The mind. The mind is the key. It's the key to our freedom. It's the key to our bondage. As we let go of that which is not self, that space for that which is self emerges. But in order to be free, we have to be prepared to let go of that which is not self. The ego, the stories, the identities, the histories, the attachments, the expectations, all of the stuff that we've accumulated, our grudges, our whole stories, our whole identities of who we think we are. We need to be prepared to let go of that. Most of you have heard me over the last many months since my memoir, Hollywood to the Himalayas, came out. Most of you have heard me so many times talk in so many ways about my experience of letting go, my experience of letting go of this identity of who I thought I was, in order to be able to be free in the truth of who I actually am. And that's something that's possible for all of you.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Alaya, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit rain.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me.
How do we connect ourselves in the spiritual world when we're lost in the material world? Well, first of all, there's no reason to be lost in the material world. Having a job, even having a beautiful profession, career, vocation, calling, and doing that, performing that in the world, is no reason why you can't stay spiritually anchored and connected. Our teachings remind us over and over again. Spirituality does not mean you have to leave the world. It's actually about how we live in the world. The Bhagavad Gita, the core beautiful tenet of our tradition, is spoken on a battlefield. It's spoken in the middle of a war. Why? I mean, think about it. It's God. When God is giving scripture, it could be given any time, anywhere. Why did the divine, why did Krishna choose to speak to us through Arjuna in the middle of a war on a battlefield? Because our lives are battlefields. We're constantly in conflict, in turmoil, within ourselves, different pulls, the path of what in the Upanishads we're taught, the path of Shreya, the path of Preya, the path basically of goodness, righteousness, or the path of our desires, our attachments, our illusions. So we're pulled in that battle. We're also constantly in a battle just in the world. Conflict and fighting and jealousy and expectations and so many difficulties. It was spoken to us on a battlefield to remind us the answer is not leave the world. Arjuna says it. Arjuna says, fine, you know what? I don't want to fight this war. Forget it. I don't need the land. I don't need the kingdom. I don't need anything. Forget it. And Bhagwan Krishna says, no, not so fast. Your dharma is not to run off this battlefield into a cave in the Himalayas. Your dharma is to be right here with your bow, with your arrows, fighting this war. That's your dharma. And that message is given to us through Arjuna. So don't worry about being in the material world. Just don't be lost. That's the key spiritually, is how can we live in the world, but not have the world live inside of us. It's why in India, the lotus flower is this very, very special, revered flower. Why? Because the lotus flower lives in the muck. But it grows so purely, so beautifully. In the muck, but untouched by the muck. So the lotus is in the muck, but the muck is not in the lotus. And in the same way, the key is we live in the world. In the midst of that conflict, or in the midst of that materialism, in the midst of all of that story, that drama, that battlefield. But we don't take it into us. That's the key. So do your duty. Whatever that duty may be, do it. Do it sincerely. Hopefully you love it. Hopefully as you're moving through the world, you're able to find joy, find bliss, find satisfaction and fulfillment in doing it. And simultaneously, remember, that isn't the highest goal. That's not actually the highest truth of who you are. This is where, again, Bhagwan Krishna reminds us, remember me and fight the war. Remember me. That's the first piece. Stay anchored in your spiritual awareness, your spiritual connection, and do your duty. For Arjuna, that was fight the war. For us, it's something different. Remember God. whatever name, whatever form you may connect to the divine in, it doesn't matter. Remember God, the divine within yourself. You could say, remember yourself, your highest self, and do your duty. Engage in action. Here at Parmarth Niketan every morning in our beautiful prayers, there's a beautiful line that says, Mukhome horam nam, ram seva hatme. It means allow the name of God to be chanting on your lips all the time. And allow God's work to be in your hands. It's not sit at home all day long, don't go out, don't do anything, and only chant my name. It's keep chanting my name. Means keep staying connected, staying anchored, staying aware, staying conscious. And do your work. Do your duty. That work of the divine here on earth that each of us is called to do. So the material world is not the problem. It's like I said in the last question about moksha. It's not the outer world that's the problem. It's not the outer world that is keeping us stuck. Yes, there's the allure of Maya for sure. But it's our internal mindset that is allowing ourselves, that is dancing with Maya, that is allowing ourselves to be wrapped up in that veil of illusion. It's our mindset. And so you need to decide, where do you want your mind to be? Because you can't move in two directions simultaneously with our attention and our intention. So either my attention is focused, my intention is focused spiritually, or it's focused materially. You can't be focused in both directions simultaneously. So the goal is have the attention, have the intention spiritually, but keep doing your duty, engaged in action. But just let the full attention of our awareness, of our consciousness, always be rooted spiritually. Like Krishna says, remember me. Like the prayer says, let the name of God be on your lips. So our conscious awareness is focused on the divine, focused spiritually. And we are doing the work with God's work on our hands, fighting that metaphoric war in the world, serving in the world. Just don't get lost. Remember you. You are your own anchor. And stay anchored with the self. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna speaks about Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga. But he doesn't speak about Kriya Yoga or Raj Yoga. And so Chandu's asking us, are those also paths? Absolutely they are. There's nowhere that Bhagavan Krishna says, and these are the only ways. Remember, you're dealing with a very specific situation of Arjuna on a battlefield. He's teaching Arjuna how to experience, to know the truth of who he is, that divine truth of who he is, that he's that soul, that spirit, right, who was never born, never dies, cannot be burned with fire, cut with knives, wet with water, dried by the wind. He's giving him this spiritual teaching in only 700 short verses on the battlefield. And there's no place in which he says, there is no other truth, there is no other path other than what I have just spoken. And so, yes, absolutely. There have been beautiful, beautiful teachings in other scriptures about Kriya Yoga, about Raja Yoga. There's as many different ways of getting into that divine river, you could say, the divine river of oneness with God, because what yoga is, yoga means union. Union of the self with the divine. So Bhagavan Krishna is not saying there's only 3 ways. He's sharing these 3 ways that you can think of apply to everyone, even those who are not so much the seated sadhaks. Remember, Arjuna is a warrior. Bhagavan Krishna is not guiding him in 700 verses on a detailed path of meditation. He's not guiding him on a path of yogasana. He's not guiding him on a path of pranayama. He's not guiding him on so many ways that are practices that those who are dedicated to a sadhana, you could say, are going to use as ways to experience yoga. The sage Patanjali gave us, right, 8 limbs of yoga. For a sadhak, if you want to attain samadhi through yoga, here's how you do it. Bhagavan Krishna was giving the teaching of everything in 700 verses of how to live it and know it in life on a battlefield. So he wasn't speaking so much to the actual seated practices. He gave a little bit. He gave a little bit about how we make our asana, what it should be comprised of. He gave a little bit speaking about now that you've got your asana, now that you are established in asana, you are ready to begin the practice of yoga. So he spoke to it. But he spoke to it only in a few verses, and he didn't go into too many details other than how to create an asana. But of course, that was just an asana for this beautiful practice of what you could call a meditation to experience that truth that he spoke about. A seated asana for my practice of Jnana Yoga, for my practice of Bhakti Yoga. But he didn't speak about, as you mentioned, the Kriyas. He didn't speak about the practice of Raj Yoga. Those are other very beautiful, very powerful ways of entering this experience of oneness. But they're just not what fell into that 700 verse beautiful treatise of life that is the Bhagavad Gita. But you know, the way that I love to think about it is we live here on the banks of Ganga. And ultimately the point is get into Ganga, bathe, dubki lagao. But it doesn't matter how you get in, right? So maybe here at Parmarth Niketan, we've got our beautiful ghat, it's marble steps. Go down river a bit to Gita Bhavan. They've got their ghat. There's also a, cement sort of sloping pathway down with a railing. Go upriver. Go up to Ramjula, there's a sandy beach. Go up further, past Lakshmanjula, there's rocks. But Ganga is not saying, I love you most if you go in down Parmarth Niketan's ghat, or I love you most if you jump off the rock up at Lakshmanjula. All we've got to do is get into Ganga. However we can get in. She's not giving, special moksha to those who get in a certain way or at a certain place. So Bhagawan Krishna has given us the essence, the very core essence of this path of union. But by no means does that mean that the incredible Vedas that we have, all of the other incredible teachings, the Ramayana, the Srimad Bhagavatam, all of the commentaries, the Smritis, the Puranas, I mean, there's so much. In our wealth of scriptures, there have been so many divine beings who have given us such divine wisdom. Use it all. Use it all. Whatever is the path that works for you, just get into that river. Get into that river. Have your bath.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation.
The square, rough rock becoming smooth. And she was saying, is that the point? Are we supposed to, become something else? What are we doing here? And she said she feels really lost. She's not sure what she's supposed to be doing or becoming. So, first of all, you are not supposed to become something other than what you are, for sure. However, the metaphor about the rough square rock with the rough edges, the sharp edges, into being smooth in the flow of Ganga, that metaphor has to do with the difficulties, the struggles, the trials and tribulations that we experience in our life. And we feel sometimes like we get knocked around, like there's a lot of quite literal turbulence, rapids, pressure. And yet, when you look at ourselves, after we have gone through that, if instead of fighting that, we allow it, we allow ourselves to be shaped by the experiences that we're having rather than trying to fight them, that we allow ourselves to be transformed by the river of life, that's where we lose that hardness, that sharpness. Because with a rock, of course, the sharpness only hurts others. But in our heart, when our hearts are hard and rough and sharp, it hurts us long before it hurts others. Our own anger, our own internal negativity, that's hurting ourselves long before we hurt others, right? It's said that being angry is like drinking poison and expecting the other guy to die, right? That roughness inside is like that poison. So the metaphor has to do with our hearts and our lives, and that as difficulties come, as challenges come, rather than staying hard and rough and angry and fighting life, we actually allow the difficulties that we experience to smoothen us. We allow it to actually shape us in a very beautiful way. So that's what that little metaphor around the size of and the shape of the rocks was about. And in terms of you and this feeling of restlessness and feeling lost, don't ask yourself, what am I supposed to do or be? These questions will kill you. Because they're questions of the mind, and they're questions that drive us crazy. And they're questions that are rooted ultimately in ignorance. And so ignorance just begets ignorance. And then it's just the mind like that, cat chasing its own tail. Instead of that, ask yourself, who am I? Let that be the only question you ask. Not what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to be? None of that. Ask yourself one question, and one question only. Who am I? And allow that to be the question that you meditate on. And you may find that in the beginning you get some kind of shallow and superficial answers. Your mind will tell you, well, I'm too old for this, or I'm too young for that, or I'm this race, I'm this religion, I'm, too fat, I gained too much weight over the pandemic, or your mind will do that in the beginning. It's okay, don't fight it. Just allow that to happen for a moment, but keep reminding yourself that is not you. Niti niti. We've done this beautiful niti niti meditation here so many times. If you weren't here when we did it, there's in these archives on YouTube, on Facebook, there's so many beautiful times that we've been together where we've actually done the niti niti meditation. Not this. Not this. I'm not the clothes I wear. I'm not the skin beneath the clothes. I'm not my role. I'm not my job. I'm not my relationships. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not the chemistry or electricity in my brain that we call, thoughts or feelings or memories. I'm none of that. So keep asking yourself, who am I? Who am I? And when these answers arise that you know are not you, just tell yourself, niti, not this, not this. And allow yourself, as you become clear of what you are not your history, not what's happened to you, not what you've done, not the money in your bank account. All of this is not you. Because you say, right, it's my money. If it's my money, then the money is not me. Right? My shawl. Shawl is not me. My anger, my thoughts, my emotions, they're not me. So who is I? And just keep asking yourself, who am I? The awareness of who you are is the point of it all. That is why we're here. That is what we are called upon to do, is to discover that. Begin it in your beautiful seated meditative practice, but then carry it with you in your day. Carry it with you, whatever you're doing. You're driving, you're cooking, you're washing dishes, you're working at a computer, whatever you may be doing. Just keep asking yourself, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And allow that beautiful self-awareness to arise. So regardless of whether you are doing the dishes, or doing the computer work, or doing the driving, who you are stays constant. Regardless of what size or shape or age or color you may be, who you are is constant. Throughout your life, you've been so many sizes, so many shapes. You've played so many roles. But you has stayed constant, that I, right? That I that we were speaking about, that Bhagawan Krishna spoke, is never born, never dies. Find that I. Don't worry about being square or round. Don't worry about that. Just go straight to the depth. Who are you? Who are you? And as that truth blossoms, what you will do will start to come naturally. And even more important than the what is the who and the how. So whatever you are doing it as you. It's like, again, going back to the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna says to Krishna, how does a wise one act? How is the yogi, right? And I won't go into all of it now, we're coming to the close, but there's beautiful, beautiful passages of how that wise one moves through the world. Not because they have to put, post-it sticky notes up to remind them how to live in the world, but because they are the one who knows who they are. When we know who we are, how to live, what to do, how to do it, it'll come like beautiful flow in the river Ganga. Beautiful. It's been such a beautiful joy to join with all of you this evening. And I think other than our little bit of some tech snafus on Instagram in the beginning, that it was a very technically successful and very, very, very joyful, very beautiful opportunity to be back with you all, even as we are in this time of Omicron restrictions. We will definitely be bringing you more live satsangs. We'll do them like this. We'll try to do them at least once a week. And hopefully by God's grace, we will soon be pandemic free. And we will all be able to gather back together here on the banks of Mother Ganga. And so, so, so much love to all of you. Stay safe. Stay healthy, stay anchored, stay grounded, stay inspired, and stay full of the love of who you are. And so much love from here, our hearts, to all of you.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation.
Above all else, what do we owe ourselves? So what's the most important thing that we owe ourselves? I think the most important thing that we owe ourselves is for every moment of our life to be one that we are able to live in truth of who we are. That it's not about what other people do, what other people say, what the external situation may be, what the stock market may be like, or the traffic may be like, or the weather may be like, but that I, in all circumstances, am able to live as the truth of me, meaning as love, as peace, as joy, as this divine embodiment. Because that's what we all are, is the embodiment of the divine. And it doesn't mean upar sai. It's not about repression or denial or suppression. It's not pretending that there aren't important problems that need to be addressed. Doesn't mean pretending there isn't grief or challenges. But it means in the face of all of that my heart is open to it all, I'm present with it all, because the truth of who I am is that there's space. There's infinite space in me as me. For challenge, for difficulty, and for that divine expression. That regardless of the challenges, regardless of the difficulties, I can still be the truth of who I am. I can still be love and peace and joy. Because nothing in the external world should have the right to steal that from me. And so I think that we owe ourselves, we think about freedom as the ultimate and highest goal of life, moksha. Well, the only way to really be free, to attain real moksha, is if I'm no longer bound by what other people are doing. By how people treat me, how they act, how the weather is, how the stock market is. Whether I got the raise or the promotion or my project got accepted or whatever. As long as I'm hooked into the result of those, number one, I'm not free. And number two, sometimes I'll be happy, sometimes I'll be sad. Sometimes I'll be satisfied, sometimes I won't. As I win and lose, gain and lose, succeed and fail, in the external aspect of life, well, so will my internal situation go up and down. But I think what we owe ourselves the most is that freedom to be the truth of who we are regardless of what is happening around us. Because otherwise we're slaves. We're beggars. We're both. Otherwise it's like, please, please, please be nice to me so I can be happy. Right? Please, please, please respect me and treat me nicely and give me what I want because I really want to be happy, and if you don't, then I can't be happy. To bikari bange. It's like saying, until you do what I want, I can't experience my birthright of joy, of love, of peace. So we're not here to be slaves, we're not here to be beggars, which means that only in that commitment to the truth of who I am can I find that. Because otherwise we're beggars to the world. Oh, please don't rain, please don't rain, please don't rain, it's my picnic. Bikari bange. Right? Please appreciate me, please like me. Shanti chahiye mujhe, so please like me. Please appreciate me. Please talk nicely to me. Then I can be in peace. We're slaves, we're puppets. So the highest thing we owe ourselves is not to be a puppet, not to be a slave, not to be a beggar. And the only way to do that is to live your truth, regardless of what's happening in the world. To really be able every minute and every moment to live that true nature. It's not, oh, cello, everybody's gossiping, so I'm gossiping. Everybody's getting drunk, I have to get drunk. Everybody's being like this, I have to be like that also. Then again, you're just a slave. In that case, just a slave to sort of popular actions, a social group. But if our highest goal, if the highest goal is moksha, freedom, then our highest responsibility to ourselves, what we owe ourselves the most, is to enable ourselves to be free. And the only way to be free is to be able to live as the truth of who you are, which is love, which is peace, which is this divine expression on earth. There's a beautiful story that Puja Swamiji loves to tell about a saint who was bathing in a river. And as he's bathing in the river, he notices a scorpion that's drowning in the water. And so the saint goes to pick him up and put him on the riverbank. And as he picks him up, the scorpion bites him, stings him. And so the saint instinctively just flings his hand like that. And of course, the scorpion falls back in the water. The saint goes to pick him up again. Again, he stings him. Again, instinctively, in pain, the saint does this. Scorpion falls. This drama goes on a few times until someone who's watching from the riverbank says, Baba, ye kab tak karte rahenge? How long are you going to try to keep saving him? He's a scorpion. That's what he does. He stings. Mardne though. Let him drown. And the saint says, as a scorpion, yeah, what he does is sting. His dharma, you could say, is to sting. But as a saint, my dharma is to save. And if the scorpion's not leaving his dharma, why should I leave my dharma? And so you can think about that story in this context, that just because other people may not be living in the truth of who they are, may not be living as love, as peace, as joy, as divinity, just because they may be living in ego or arrogance or ignorance. Why should you give up your truth just because they've given up theirs? We have a duty to ourselves, our dharma to ourselves, to live that truth. So I think that's our greatest responsibility to ourselves, every minute and every moment, is not to be a slave, not to be a beggar, to be free. Doesn't mean that we're going to be able to do everything we want in the world. There's laws. Countries have laws, cities have laws, companies have laws, families have rules. Doesn't mean we don't ever have to compromise. That's not what I mean. Freedom to be your true self doesn't mean, no, I will never eat Chinese food because I hate it and I know you love it, but we're always going to eat only what I want. No, it's actually the opposite. It's actually the freedom to say, God, I really don't love Chinese food, but I really love you. And I really love peace. And therefore, I have the freedom to be able to eat something that I don't love every once in a while. As an act of love, as a choice of peace, rather than to need every morsel of food that goes in my mouth to be my absolute favorite in order to be okay. So that freedom is on a much deeper level than what we think of as sort of a license to decadence or a license to recklessness or my way or the highway type of living. It's actually the freedom to surrender, the freedom to say, may thy will be done. The freedom to say, okay, you want Chinese, so be it. Because I can even smile eating something I don't like. Because I'm not a slave to my taste buds. I'm able to find love and joy even in a restaurant that's not my favorite. Amazing. Right? Able to find love and joy even being told that the project that you proposed didn't get accepted. That you've been passed over for the raise or the promotion. That's the freedom. It's not the freedom to always get what you want, but the freedom to be who you are, regardless of whether your desires are being satisfied or your ego is being, buttered up. That's real freedom.
This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week, and I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.